Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey. And if I'm looking at the calendar correctly here, Eric, we are only 20 days away from the grand opening of Epic Universe. Though from what I've been hearing and seeing online, I guess you don't have to wait till then now, right?
Right, Jim. Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter online. Everyone kind of started last night, I think Tuesday, the 29th. We're recording on Wednesday. They opened up, Universal opened up the one-day Epic Universe preview tickets to everyone. So no longer do you need to be an annual pass holder or staying at a Universal hotel or even know someone on the inside. They opened it up to everyone. So that's got a lot of buzz, but we're going to end up talking about that and much more in the show today, but including actually the fascinating history of Triceratops Encounter, the former attraction at Islands of Adventure. But I believe we want to acknowledge the sponsor prior to that.
We do. Again, before we get to the news, big thanks to our sponsor, Be Our Guest Vacations. And planning our next adventure, let the experts at Be Our Guest Vacation take care of the details. As a platinum level earmarked travel agency, they provide top tier concierge service for trips to Universal Orlando, Universal Hollywood, the Disney parks, cruises, and more. Get started today at beourguestvacations.com and be sure to mention that the Epic Universal podcast sent you. So, all right, so let's get to, again, this news about the one-day Epic Universe preview tickets now being available, to the world.
Right. I was going to say that our friends at Be Our Guest Vacations, their lines are probably very busy right now, much like the queue online to book tickets, because everyone is now available. And I think that they essentially opened it up to everyone, and tickets for adults start at $144 and children at $139. And it varies by the day, but for the most part, up until I think the 19th, they have tickets available for everyone. So we checked last night, and there were still only 3 days that were sold out, which conveniently is when Lauren and Lainey are going down there. So they will not be going back to Epic. Okay. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are sold out. So I just, there's been lots of rumors and talks, and I just wanted your opinions on why are we opening it up and why are we making all the annual pass holders mad that thought that they had to buy an annual pass to get in, and now everybody's going in. What's your take on this, Jim?
Well, I've been working my trap line. And a couple of interesting things have kind of bubbled up. One, of course, is going to remember we've been dealing with the impact of the trade wars and the tariffs, and far fewer Canadian tourists are coming south. And what appears to be happening is it's kind of a 1-2 punch. A lot of people were trying to get into the Epic Universe previews. But they were seeing, conversely, an attendance dip at both Islands of Adventure and Universal. That continues. And so the thinking was evidently in the ops side. It's like there are a lot of people who want to get into Epic Universe to have bragging rights. And more to the point, we've come through our preview period pretty solid. Yes, we have a couple of attractions that are a little balky. You explained on the last show about the virtual queue that's being used for Ministry of Magic, but a lot of the other rides are proving solid performers. So why not take advantage of people who really want to be in to this park early, that will happily buy lots of merch to take home and show off that they have been into this, the first brand new theme park to be built in the Orlando area, since 99, 25 years. So it's kind of a, look, there's money on the table, there's profit to be had, throw open the doors. And yes, I get, there are annual pass holders who are upset about this, but deliberately bought certain levels of passes to get early access. But it is a business, folks. And,
Right.
I'm just
Well, do you think so? It sounds to me like, Jim, and I never thought of this. So maybe that the traffic at the other parks were dipping because people were holding off. So maybe they're saying, hey, we can't take a vacation to Epic or until Universal until the 22nd. So if they open it up, there are people say, hey, I can go now and they can get more money in. Is that possibility?
That is also one of the things that's kind of making the rounds in regard to the rationalization that would behind this decision. I mean, it's important to stress here that Universal wouldn't do this. I mean, remember, when they opened the original Universal in June of 1990, and likewise when they opened Islands in again June of 99. Those parks had operational issues. They had entire attractions that didn't work. Whereas this park, they're really confident and they're enjoying the buzz. So it's like, kick open the doors. Let's make some money.
So I had a couple individuals, and I had some general thoughts and questions. I had a couple individuals think that maybe that they just weren't getting enough annual pass holders to sell out, because I mean, we didn't see too many sellouts. And for them to test, they need to test this park at like a full capacity, right? They need to actually have, so if they're not selling out and saying, hey, how do we handle these huge crowds before day one, which we would assume the 22nd was going to be massive and packed by everyone, they kind of have to ramp up, because we can speak on day one, it didn't seem overly busy. I mean, yes, we waited for lines and so forth, but it wasn't crammed shoulder to shoulder like I would anticipate it could be. Do you think that's kind of like, all right, each day we can still cap this and try to sell some days out?
Well, now, as it's been explained to me, even with throwing open the doors here, man, you just mentioned that there are days already that the park is sold out. But what I've been told is that still not at max capacity, that they are throttling the numbers. What's the old cliche? You don't build your church for Easter Sunday. And face it, there will be days, Christmas Day, 4th of July, when this place will be body to body. As I understand it, this is more about they are gradually creeping up the numbers as we get closer to the grand opening, the media event starting on the 19th. So, I mean, there's a certain education test component still going on here. But again, I think folks don't need to really overthink this. This is a company that's confident, I mean, is looking at reviews and it's like, please throw open the doors. They want to come in, let them in.
Right. Well, I'm concerned because I've been paying a lot of attention and people have been sending me lots of discounts going on at the Mouse House that this summer is looking like they're and I'm just wondering if tourism in general is hurting that bad, that we're at like record low prices. I mean, we're talking the All-Stars or what, like less than $100. And I'm like, I wonder if that's affecting everyone. Are they stealing people from Disney, and Disney's trying to get people to stay at their parks, even though they're going to visit Epic? Or in general, are we actually having a very light summer season because of a lot of the, tariff talk, recession talk, general?
Everybody who's paying attention, a lot of folks facing financial uncertainty are like, do I really want to max out the credit cards to go to Orlando? And yes, that's impacting Disney and Universal. But again, Universal is the one who at least got the timing right on this. They have something bright, shiny, and new to lure people down. Whereas Disney right now, I'm told that, the new nighttime parade that's about to debut at the Magic Kingdom this summer will have an ad campaign that rivals what they did for Tron Light Cycle Run.
Wow.
The notion that you have to come to the park to see this brand new amazing nighttime parade that, by the way, we should have had it 10 years ago, but don't bug me, kid.
Right. And with the new float from Wish, which was a huge hit, like it's well, all right.
There you go.
Started a little late on that, but
Okay.
well, there's enough there. I mean, we're still excited, but it's interesting to watch, and of course, I'm having a great time on X watching people lose their minds over how dare we open it up. Not to mention lots of chatter about chicken nuggets this week, Jim. I don't know if you fell into that. Heaven forbid we add chicken nuggets to a menu. People were really up in arms. But
Wow.
Universal's also sending out surveys to those who are going to the park. So I have a couple survey results. We had a nice individual send a couple things in that I thought were pretty interesting here.
Okay.
And I don't think these surveys are probably that abnormal. I haven't seen too many surveys myself to say if this is a common question, but there were a couple of them that I thought were at least worth talking about, or at least pointing out. There was a survey, guest survey, based on your visit, please rate Epic Universal on each of the following attributes. And it's normally like ease of navigating the park, safety, value I paid. The fun one that I kind of circled was the seamless, hassle-free nature of my visit. Do you think that's a direct jab at someone else we know?
Well, no. And we'll get to this news story further on down the pike. The news about Volcano Bay.
Yeah,
I mean, kind of interesting that Universal is suddenly on a seamless, hassle-free kick because my visit to the water park wasn't like that. But anyway, what else? What else did we find out from the survey?
Well, this was fun because if you're not familiar, and I know you guys talked about it, Lauren actually visited the Disney Institute training program, I think last summer, right? And they went over like a lot of it came down to like the 5 keys of the employees and so forth. So when I shared some of these surveys questions with her, she's like, oh, that looks exactly like what they trained over at Disney. And I can attest that the service we had at Epic on the 17th when we went was, dare I say, Disney quality, if not better, right? That's what they're known for. And it was just incredible. So one of the questions did any team member, and it just kind of gives list, provide directions, help you celebrate occasion, offer to take a photo with your camera, offer to help you with something, make a recommendation for a ride, dining venue, etc. And I don't necessarily see all these questions all the time, but that is a direct, almost as if they're training. And I'm wondering, Jim, do you think that, like, has there been any quality control or training programs that you know of that Universal has put in place over the years to kind of match that quality? Because I think some people are saying that there's a little bit of the magic, not necessarily cast members, but some of the magic over there going away. And these questions kind of almost say, hey, if it's not seamless and easy, come over here where it is. If you don't think there's magic, come over here. We're doing all these things that don't seem to happen as much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. This is an interesting time in the themed entertainment world of Orlando. I mean, remember, it wasn't all that long ago that all of these theme parks were shut down for the pandemic, and a number of people wandered away because they needed to make a living and they didn't know when Disney and Universal were going to reopen. So it was a challenge for a while when things began reopening to get these really good at their jobs people back. And that's what's, especially interesting about Epic Universe is that, a number of folks who had stepped away from themed entertainment, it's like, oh, I get the opportunity to open an entire theme park. Okay, I'll go back over there. So, a lot of people who are really, really good at their jobs re-entered the field over at Epic Universe. Now, conversely, though, this gets interesting because, of course, people who come down and do a vacation at the Universal Orlando Resort and have a wonderful time and an amazing interaction with the team members over at Epic Universe are going to walk into the studios and Islands Adventure and expect the same level.
Right.
So that gets a little interesting because again, remember, one of the joys, if you talk with longtime folks who work in the industry in Central Florida, said the nice thing about going to work at Universal is they allowed you to have a little attitude. You could utz the tourists a little bit, because they expected you to have a little edge here. And it's like, oh, crud, the people over at Epic are being really, really nice. So now we have to be nice. It's like, hey. So
Well, I was wondering if they cherry picked and that's the A team or what have you. And I mean, I had good experiences at all the parks, but I typically don't try to be too much of, a jerk
Mhm.
to have people, you know, necessarily treat me unfairly or unjust. But it was a great experience. And I just thought that was interesting. They're asking those types of questions so that they can reward or see if their efforts are paying off. Two last questions.
Sure.
Pretty common. How did Epic Universe play a role in your decision to visit Universal Orlando? That's a simple one, just to find it. So they know how many people are actually just going because
Oh, yeah.
they're already there and they're
Mhm.
stopping over. And the other one was, how did the opening of Epic Universe impact the timing of your visit? Finding out, hey, did we move stuff up? Did we, so it's they're getting the data they need to know what the early adopters' thoughts are. And in many situations, did you move your vacation up? Were we going to get your money anyway? Or is this vacation brand new? And there were a couple other questions directly. Hey, did you take a day from Disney or other parks? So interesting data that I would
I don't
love to
know.
have the full results. And I know that they're getting those.
Yeah, and I think it's Mr. Schul, our partner over on Disney Unpacked, that pointed out that, again, during the pandemic, a number of folks who worked in data collection at Disney left the company, and Universal scooped them up. So, again, that's what's interesting about this information gathering. There are
Mhm.
now people over there who know what to do with this.
Right.
So,
Well, the next story, Jim, you mentioned. Do you want to tell us what's going on with Volcano Bay? Just
well,
breaking.
yeah, it's actually a two-part story. We learned that as of October 1st of this year, the TapuTapu, and this is that wearable, you got for that park, which allowed you to tap into the virtual line system at Volcano Bay, is going away. It's being retired, and with the idea that from October 1st going forward, guests will then be able to access the ride queues in this water park directly, and that's a big deal. I mean, this park was built on the back of TapuTapu, and I mean, I remember going there for opening day, and they virtually gave a symposium about walk up to this thing, tap it, get in. And that's the other thing, the lockers keyed off of the system,
Oh,
the food, an essential part of this experience. Now, mind you, to kind of facilitate this world change for Volcano Bay, it's going to go down on October 26th for a 5-month long rehab.
yeah. Yeah, everybody was saying that they can't promote their four water park or their four theme parks when they do that. They
Yeah.
said that's going to hit their marketing. That they only have three open at the time, but
Well,
uh
but the other thing to point out here, and I know, it always gets interesting because you can always tell the Disney fans, they're closing it for 5 months and blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, wait a minute. How long does Blizzard Beach get closed for its
yeah.
seasonal rehabs? How long does Typhoon Lagoon? It's like a water park. You do have to occasionally shut it down to do rehabs. And especially now that you're going to be pulling out all this tapu stuff, you got to make some big changes to this park. So,
I bet I could imagine that there's some good discounts during that time having to come to Cabana Bay because that's one of the major reasons why you stay there is you can walk right over. So it might be a good time to stay, which I loved Cabana Bay as a themed resort. I thought it was fantastic. So
mhm.
if anything, while this is happening, look for good discounts. They might be able to give you something there.
All true, all true. But I again just understand that. In fact, that's what I think you and I should do. Is March of next year we should schedule a trip down to Universal to try this new TapuTapu free version of Volcano Bay, and mind you, I'll keep my thong at home. Okay, so uh,
Thanks, Jim.
okay.
No, I wasn't a huge fan of the TapuTapu. We used it, but I didn't feel like it was super helpful. You could only tap into one area. It was yes, I guess I was waiting in queue for one of the major rides while doing other things, but
Mhm.
It wasn't. I mean, to me, it would have been better if I would have did old fast pass style. Give me 3 attractions. Tell me when to come back. But
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's what this is about. And face it, we have seen Disney do some of this very same thing. For example, with the recent change for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic
yeah.
Rewind. If you're willing to put in the sweat equity to stand in that line, you can get on that ride.
Wow, it's like a theme park from back in the day. It's like we're back in the 80s, Jim.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Hey, the next story, Jim, I don't know how much you've seen online, and I know it probably breaks your heart because I heard the news.
Yeah, and in fact, that what's killing me is just today, Universal sent me hey, you're coming to FanFest, and here's what you need to do. And it's like, no, I'm not.
Well, listen, I've watched a lot of videos, and for those not aware, we are talking about the Hollywood studio, the FanFest.
Yep.
It launched lots of videos and commentary online, and it seems to be in what I would deem a success. I've heard a lot of people praise a lot of what's going on there. The Back to the Future interaction seems really, really darn cool. I've watched the Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons walkthroughs. Amazing. This is where I would say if you want to hear full-fledged breakdown, you and Drew did a fantastic job on this week's fine-tuning. Drew was there, right?
He was there for the first night. And by the way, I want to stress the tip that Mr. Taylor shared, especially if you're somebody who's a little off put about I don't want, if I want to get in a long line to do that. What Drew noticed is, and again, this event starts at 7:00 at night and then runs at 2:00 in the morning. What Drew noticed is that starting at about 10:30, 11, the lines really start to die because people, it's like, all right, I had fun, I'm going home. So if you're smart about this, while everybody else is lining up in the early part of the evening, go off and actually enjoy the attractions in the park. And then starting at 10 or thereabouts, a lot of this stuff the crowds will have dissipated. A lot of it will be walk on, and you can genuinely enjoy yourself. Now, mind you, you probably have to make a couple of trips to the Starbucks place to stay awake to do this, but
especially if you're an East Coaster like us. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, that's 7:00 is late.
No, that's it exactly. My plan was to fly out on the first and do this the second night. Alice and I would do this the second night we were in town, so I would still be jet lagged. And again, the notion of, stay up till 2:00 in the morning. Yes, absolutely. 5:00 in the morning. I'm having a great time in a theme park at 5:00 in the morning.
Right. Well, I think there will probably be more coming out over the next couple of weeks. We'll follow it, and I saw some really cool stuff there. But
same thing here. And again, remember they surveyed for the East Coast edition, so hopefully Universal Orlando, and again, we'll be in the same time zone, and we'll get to experience closer to home.
Right, yeah, and then what Wicked Elphaba was out there. I saw that they're meeting and so forth. And you sent over a pretty cool story about Wicked this week. You found something pretty fascinating, and I'm not too much in the movie world, but what did you uncover about this? I believe it was a Deadline story.
Yeah, the folks over at Deadline have been taking a close look at the most profitable franchises for 2024, and two that they've recently highlighted were, of course, Wicked Part 1 and then Despicable Me 4. And what was kind of interesting, at least to me, was that Wicked, they admitted they spent 130 or is that 120 on the making of the movie? But Universal then said, well, yeah, we did that, but we also spent 170 million to promote this film worldwide. Now, mind you, that campaign worked out brilliantly. Again, $1 billion, 10 Oscar nominations, and I want to say they took home 2 awards there. And of course, everybody, including your lovely bride and your daughter Lainey, are chomping at the bit for Wicked for Good coming out this December. But they also talked about Despicable Me, which, by the way, cost $100 million to make the part 4 of this installment. But same thing, Universal spent $170 million for what they called a 360 ad campaign, as in you could not know that
Right.
this movie was coming, which makes me think, given all of the ads that I have seen so far for Jurassic Park Rebirth, it's like, dear Lord, how much are they spending on the promotion of that film?
Well, I mean, 2 big wins. That's another one that would be certainly impressive if they're spending it. What that comes out July 2nd, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think this is they're going big, and we'll see how much money they spend on that. I couldn't find the box office, or at least how much production cost they had for that yet. But if you're telling me you're seeing it everywhere, I've seen the commercials, and I don't watch a lot of TV. That's saying something.
No, absolutely. And Universal knows how to sell a blockbuster. But that's the thing. At this point, Jurassic World and now Wicked was kind of a roll of the dice, but turned out to be a blockbuster. And of course, Despicable Me since 2010. That's been a well-tested franchise for them. But again, the proper sale of a blockbuster, we all just have to look at the Indiana Jones film, that Dial of Destiny, and it's like it's harder than it looks, folks. It's harder than it looks.
Right, but if it is a big deal, you typically find it in a theme park, right? And I
do.
believe the original Jurassic Park, that is kind of what helped stir up Island of Adventures, and we did get some Jurassic Park rides there, and that's a big topic, what we're going to have after the break. You're going to talk about this Triceratops Encounter, which I believe is kind of an extinct ride that's no longer, or attraction that's no longer there, and in place is the Velocicoaster, right? But
you had me at extinct attraction involving dinosaurs. Wow, that's clever. Okay, cool. Yes. All right. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But first, this.
That's your money saying it's time for a McDonald's run. Because with new McValue at McDonald's, you get more than you expect. Like buy a 6-piece McNuggets and add a McChicken for just $1. Your money says let's go. Get more than you expect with new McValue. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Vitamin Water was born in New York because New Yorkers wanted more. Like more flavor to go with all the flavor. A refreshing drink after climbing 6 flights of stairs to a walk-up apartment, or standing in the subway station in 100-degree heat. Focus when I have an 8-hour shift. And Triple X after I was out all night at a club. Call Triple X. Drink vitamin water. It's from New York.
And we're back. Okay. Anyone who listened to the lovely Patreon exclusive show that you and your bride Lauren did about your family's time at Epic Universe, you guys talked about how much you enjoyed when you went to Haddock Paddock at the Viking village on the island of Burke, where what was it? They had, in fact, the live actor who was playing Hiccup before he went on break actually took time out deliberately to interact with your son Miles, right?
yeah, it was fantastic. That was this great service there. Because right up next, he was going to be the one to go talk with, Hiccup was actually with Toothless at the time, and they have to swap out, it seemed like every 15 minutes or so. But he swung by and interacted. So I dare say we had a better interaction than we would have with Toothless. So we didn't have to share any of the spotlight. So that was great.
Okay. Well, now, just to be clear, what we're describing here, folk, is that, again, there's a live actor playing Hiccup. And by the way, kudos to Universal Entertainment. I don't know where they found all of these guys who do such an amazing impression of Jay Baruchel, who is the actor who actually voiced Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III. That's what that character's name is, actually, in the How to Train Your Dragon movies. But this actor playing Hiccup, it sort of acts as a conduit to the fact that, okay, let me show you how you interact with the dragon. What they do is they bring the guest up to this animatronic version of Toothless, and they then lead them through this, how you have to approach them and what not to do, and I'm sorry, everything I've seen so far, this is legitimate theme park magic. This is the sort of things that many people, especially young kids, will remember forever. But those of us who are elderly, again, we remember once upon a time there was an earlier, very similar experience at a Universal theme park. One where guests would get up close to a 24-foot long animatronic dinosaur, which was just as impressive, at least from a technology and stagecraft point of view, as the what's going on at Haddock Paddock right now. But that experience, Eric, opening day attraction at Islands Adventure, and again, that park opened May of '99, surprisingly short-lived. And we are talking, you referred to it earlier, Triceratops Encounter, which less than 3 years after Islands opened, switched to seasonal status, which meant that it was only open to guests when Islands was extra crowded. And otherwise, this corner of Jurassic Park would be locked up tight for most of the year with its trio of hugely expensive to build and maintain animatronic dinosaurs, then hidden from sight, unless, of course, you're an urban explorer with a video camera. So why is it that Hiccup and Toothless, the meet and greet at Epic Universe, is a hit? I mean, right out of the box. And Triceratops Encounter, which closed for good in 2010 after several years of infrequent seasonal operation, as you mentioned, got raised to make room for Island's now hugely successful Velocicoaster. Why is it Triceratops Encounter wound up being, a footnote in theme park history? Weirdly enough, Eric, a lot of this can be traced down to the original Jurassic Park book.
The book. Not even the movie. The book.
The book. And now here's where this gets interesting. Universal acquired the movie and theme park rights to Jurassic Park before that book was published, which, by the way, book published October of 1990. As the story goes, how this happened was, again, author Michael Crichton and Steven Spielberg are meeting to discuss a TV project in October of 1989. And by the way, the show that Crichton and Spielberg were talking about potentially collaborating on at that time was ER. You know, the NBC show that debuted in September of '94 and then became the long-running Emmy Award-winning smash hit. Ran for 15 seasons on NBC and only closed up shop in April of 2009. And by the way, I don't know if you've seen The Pit, which stars Noah Wiley, who made his debut in the original ER. But there's a lot of people who are like, hey, look, it's ER2. But anyway, back to Jurassic Park. During a coffee break, during this development meeting, Spielberg, turns to Michael and says, so what else are you working on? And Crichton says, well, since '83, I've been working on this idea where dinosaurs return to the modern world, which, by the way, Eric, not a new idea. Oliver Butterworth wrote a kid's book back in 1956 called The Enormous Egg, told the tale of Nate Twitchell, a 12-year-old boy who lives in Freedom, New Hampshire, which I assume is just down the street from New Boston.
Yeah. I'm sure it is.
So one day he's tending the family, working the family farm, goes out to the chicken coop and finds an enormous egg, which when it hatches is revealed to contain a baby Triceratops.
Oh.
And by the way, yes, there's a theme carried through today's show. Thanks for paying along. Anyway, Nate, after he names this baby Triceratops, Uncle Beasley, don't ask. All right. He hand raises the thing, which then grows to be some 25 feet long. Now, mind you, unlike Jurassic Park, the enormous egg ends happily because Uncle Beasley is a docile, well-behaved dinosaur. This Triceratops is determined to be a national treasure and winds up on display in Washington, D.C. at our National Zoo. And again, another weird bend on today's story. NBC, now the parent company of Universal, actually shot an hour-long version of The Enormous Egg on location in our nation's capital back in October of 1967. It then airs on that network as an NBC Children's Theater presentation, April 18th, 1968. And I would love to be able to tell you that The Enormous Egg, which, by the way, narrated by Ed McMahon, longtime announcer, co-host of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to tell you that it was available for viewing on YouTube, but I just checked, folks, and it's not there.
That's what I was going to ask, Jim. I'm like, where can we watch this?
But here's the thing, Eric. If you pound on Enormous Egg, there are all of these pictures all over the internet that show the giant plastic dinosaur that was used in production of The Enormous Egg being trucked around Washington, D.C. And by the way, Disney fans will love this detail. Specific Triceratops that was used for the show was modeled after the one that was on display in Sinclair's Dino Land at the 64-65 World's Fair. And better yet, Eric, when production was complete, Uncle Beasley was donated to the Smithsonian, which then put the scientifically accurate model of a Triceratops on display in various locations on its grounds over the past 50 or so years. So this is why many a kid who read the original Oliver Butterworth book as they were growing up has very happy memories of being on a school field trip and coming around a path and saying, oh my God, it's Uncle Beasley. All right. Anyway, long side trip. I know. The point is that doing a story about dinosaurs somehow coming back to the modern world, not a new idea. Anyway, back to Michael Crichton. At 83, he starts working on a book with the idea that, well, it's a grad student working on his own and in secret who somehow gets his hands on 66 million-year-old dinosaur DNA, and he clones a pterosaur, one of those flying dinosaurs.
Okay.
Which, by the way, if you've been paying attention to the ads for Jurassic World Rebirth, those specific types of dinosaurs actually play a big role in this and evidently menace Scarlett Johansson. And by the way, that's out in theaters July 2nd. Anyway, Crichton eventually abandons this version of his story, the grad student working on his own, and then comes up with a slightly different idea, the one where now there are hundreds of people working for a high-tech company that is spending billions of dollars to bring dinosaurs back. Only in this version of Michael's story, the goal is to put these prehistoric creatures on display, not in the National Zoo next to Uncle Beasley, but in a theme park resort that people would then have to spend big bucks to get into and stay at. And so at this point, Spielberg starts interjecting. So at some point in the story, the dinosaurs get out and start eating people, right? And Crichton's like, well, yeah, I was kind of thinking along those lines. And remember, this is Spielberg, who back in 1975 made Jaws for Universal Pictures.
Right.
All right. So again, that's the movie that established his reputation as director of blockbusters. And so Steven's like, he immediately sees the box office potential of this idea. Because of course, audiences love movies where people get eaten by big scary creatures.
Right.
And so Steven says, I would love to make a movie based on an idea like that. And then at this point, Eric, things start to move really, really fast. So development of VR, the TV series temporarily tabled while Steven goes to loop in key executives at Universal Pictures. And easy to do because Steven, since he made Jaws at Universal, had this long-standing production deal with the studio. In fact, he's making a movie with them right now. It's an event film about
I've heard this, yeah.
UFOs, and will be out in theaters June 12th of next year, 2026. But anyway, on Spielberg's recommendation, Universal acquires both the movie rights and the theme park rights to Jurassic Park, the book, prior to publication. Now, all right. Where this especially gets interesting is Jurassic Park, the movie, and Jurassic Park, the theme park ride. They go into development at the exact same time. In fact, in 1990, Gary Goddard and his team over at Landmark Entertainment Group, this is an LA-based theme park entertainment design company. Well, they closely read this Crichton book, and they latch on to this part again, this is from the book, where in order to get away from the dinosaurs, Dr. Alan Grant, paleobiologist, Ellie Slatter, and John Hammond's grandchildren, Tim and Lexi, they climb aboard an inflatable raft and then cruise down a jungle river in this theme park, where they then, over a couple of more chapters, narrowly avoid other dinosaur attacks. And again, because this journey aboard the inflatable raft is such a big part. Again, 3 or 4 chapters of the original storyline of Jurassic Park. Goddard and his theme park team are like, they're confident, certain even, that this boat ride is going to be a big part of Jurassic Park, the movie.
Right.
Yeah. So they, as they're developing the attraction for Universal Studios Hollywood, again, based on the Universal Pictures, soon to begin shooting Jurassic Park movie, they're like, oh, no, absolutely. The theme park attraction has to be a boat ride. And the other thing here, again, as a Disney fan, I know you'll love this, Eric. Another thing to take into consideration here, remember that Jurassic Park, the ride, begins development in 1990. And the year previous, 1989, Splash Mountain opens at Disneyland and is immensely, hugely popular. And so on the heels of that flume ride, boosting attendance levels at that Anaheim theme park, executive at Universal Studios now want a water ride at their park that features a huge drop, just like Splash. So this is why when Goddard comes in the room and, lays down the concept art for Jurassic Park the ride, and it shows, guests in an inflatable raft, sliding down a steep incline and narrowly avoiding being eaten by a T-Rex, their immediate response is, yes, absolutely, build that. But again, this is what I love, the irony. Stephen opts not to use that journey down the jungle river aboard an inflatable raft storyline as part of Jurassic Park the movie, the one he's making for Universal Pictures. He ignores the story element entirely.
Let me ask you this, Jim. Is it because he made Jaws and knew what kind of headaches there were with messing around with water and animatronics?
That's an excellent question.
He's like, been there, done that. No thanks. We're going to put him in a tree and have a dinosaur sneeze on him instead.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that being part of his thought process there. Now, mind you, this idea, this story thread actually does get resurrected as part of Jurassic Park 3, which, by the way, Spielberg doesn't direct. He directs the first Jurassic Park sequel, Lost World, comes out in theaters May of 1977, but not Jurassic Park 3. That film actually winds up being directed by Joe Johnston, who helmed the original Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and The Rocketeer for Disney.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, journey down the jungle river from the original Jurassic Park book doesn't end up being in anything till the second Jurassic Park sequel, which, again, not out in theaters till July of 2001. But now, mind you, Spielberg's production company, Amblin, does wind up co-producing Jurassic Park 3. So, but that's pretty much Spielberg's the extent of his involvement in that sequel. And by the way, Lost World does well enough at the box office in 97, but it gets pretty miserable reviews, which again, it may have been the 1-2 punch of, I don't like animatronics in the water, and I don't like bad reviews, so I think I'm done making dinosaur movies. That's Spielberg's thinking at the time. Now, anyway, getting back to Landmark now, who, when they learned that Stephen wasn't going to use that journey down the jungle river with the inflatable raft, they freak. It's like, oh my God, what about our ride? And the folks at Universal, people in charge of the Hollywood theme park, it's like, don't worry about it. A book's a book, a movie's a movie, a theme park ride's a theme park ride. And they don't have to be exactly the same. They can all be different. Now, go ahead, build what you designed. We want our own version of Splash Mountain. So how do we go from Jurassic Park, the theme park ride, at Universal Studios Hollywood to Jurassic Park, the entire theme park land at Islands of Adventure down in Florida. We'll get to that part of the story in a moment. But first, this.
Out here, there's no one way of doing things, no unwritten rules, and no shortage of adventure. Because out here, the only requirement is having fun. Bank of America invites kids 6 to 18 to golf with us. For a limited time, sign them up for a free 1-year membership, giving them access to discounted tee times at thousands of courses. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/golf with us. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Restrictions apply. See BofA.com/golf with us for complete details. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation.
It's almost Mother's Day, and you can now get anything you need delivered with Uber Eats. Well, almost anything. So no, you can't order a relaxing shower, but some beautiful flowers, you bet we deliver those. A bird bath? No. A bath bomb? Absolutely. It's no to a chocolate lab, but yes to some chocolate truffles. So whether it's a last-minute gift for Mother's Day, fresh groceries, or food from your favorite restaurants, get it delivered today with Uber Eats. Order now. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
And we're back. Okay, so Jurassic Park, the movie, comes out June 1993. Absolute smash hit, Eric. It cost $63 million to make, but it then goes on to sell $978 million worth of tickets worldwide. Makes it
in 93 money.
In 93
that's
money.
Really good.
Yeah. In fact, it is the highest grossing movie of all time till James Cameron's Titanic comes out 4 years later, December of 97. And on the heels of this, Universal Studios Hollywood turns to Landmark Entertainment and says, okay, here's $100 million. We want that Jurassic Park ride, the raft ride you designed, opened at our California theme park before the sequel opens in theaters. But also, what's a little interesting side note here, Crichton honestly hadn't anticipated writing a sequel. In fact, he hadn't previously written a sequel to any of his novels. But again, when the original Jurassic Park movie comes within inches of making $1 billion, Spielberg turns to him and says, look, if you write the sequel, I will direct it. And remember, we were talking about ER earlier. And so when they're having this conversation, it's 93, 94. They haven't even started shooting the ER pilot. That won't go before cameras till March of 94. And here's the thing, it's going to be expensive. They're going to need all of Spielberg's star power to convince NBC to go forward with this. So Michael, like it or not, it's like, I guess I got to write a sequel to Jurassic Park. So that gets written in 94. The book gets published in September of 95. 1 year later, in September of 96, production begins on Lost World. In fact, a lot of it is shot on the Universal lot in Hollywood. But here's the kicker. That very same year, in 96, is when Jurassic Park, the ride, opens at Hollywood on June 21st, again, 1996. All right. Was supposed to cost $100 million to build, wound up costing $110. And some of that was because the dinosaurs, which, by the way, were built by the Sarcos company, the very same folks who made the Wicked Witch animatronic for the Great Movie Ride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they'd never made any, they were good at tiny little witches, but giant brachiosaurs, that was a challenge. Oh, by the way, I got this story from a friend who worked at Goddard. The T-Rex at the end of the ride, the one that you pass under before you begin your slide downhill. And by the way, to give you some idea of, again, how competitive Disney and Universal were at the time, on Splash Mountain, when you slid down Chickabin Hill. You went down an incline that was 52.5 feet long. Universal insisted their slide had to be longer, so it was 85 feet long. But anyway, all right, it's the first summer that Jurassic Park, the ride, is open, and the hydraulic hoses that make this 17,500 pound, 20-foot tall animatronic work. The pipes burst. Okay,
Oh.
all right, and there is
Jeez.
there is a boatload of Japanese tourists under the T-Rex when this happens, who. All this stuff comes spraying down on them, and it's coming out of the animatronic T-Rex's mouth, and they're like, "Is he vomiting on us?"
I was going to say, I hope it wasn't red. I know there was a story, but with Abe Lincoln or one of the animatronics, it's like, so like,
but here's the thing:
lunch.
they come back into the offload area, and they're covered with hydraulic fluid, which, by the way, is very corrosive.
Right.
And so they run them into. Well, first they take them backstage and shower, and gather all their clothes to take it off to be dry cleaning, and then they march them into the post-show Jurassic gift shop, and it's like, all right, here's a t-shirt, here's shorts, here's socks, here's shoes. They're a billboard for the rest of the day, and it's just sort of like,
say they look like an employee of Jurassic Park now.
There we go. All right. So anyway, back to our story. November 1995, 7 months before Jurassic Park the Ride at Universal Studios Hollywood opens, the second theme park that's in the work, Islands of Adventure, officially gets announced. Now, you and I have talked on a previous Epic Universal podcast about the theme park that was in development prior to Islands, Universal Cartoon World, which was supposed to have a huge version of Acme Luniversity on the other side of Toon Lagoon, which the idea of, you're entering the park, you see that on the other side of the water, I have to walk over there and see that. When Universal's attempts to license the Looney Tune characters as well as DC superhero falls through, the new thinking is, well, look, we have this brand new hit film with Jurassic Park with a sequel already in the works, so why not really lean into that? So new plan for this park is in much the same way that when you enter Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom of Florida and see the castle at the end of Main Street. So it's like, okay, so our castle is the Jurassic Park Visitor Center. We want the biggest, most impressive, most glorious version of the Visitor Center on the other side of that body of water to make people think, ooh, I have to go over there. But again, also important to note here that while Universal Island Adventure would have a clone of the Jurassic Park ride from Hollywood, that would just be a piece of the Jurassic Park themed land. We're supposed to have 5 experiences. In fact, when you and the family were at Island, did you do Camp Jurassic with Miles?
Yes. Go told us all about her losing him in Camp Jurassic.
Oh dear.
We went on Velocicoaster, so Miles got to expand the little playground area. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Did they do the Pterodon flyers? The thing that
Oh, Jim, it was closed the first time, and just I'll keep this rant short. 60-minute wait this time around because I was hell bent on trying to, and every time it was 60 minutes. You got to rope drop that sucker, so I will get it next time. I've learned my lesson. Okay. Velocicoaster or Pterodon flyers, we have the child, and he's only going to be so short for another couple visits.
Yeah. I may be borrowing Miles.
Right?
We're all done. Okay. But by the way, these kid-friendly additions to Jurassic Park were deliberate, largely because little kids are historically dinosaurs' biggest fans, and so, and more to the point, also because Jurassic Park the ride had a 3-foot 6-inch height restriction.
Yeah.
But again, we talked about the visitor center that was going to have a lot of high-touch interactive elements. There was also the East Coast version of Jurassic Park the ride, which was rebranded as Jurassic Park River Adventure. There was also the Thunderfall Terrace restaurant right next door where, you could either sit in air-conditioned comfort and eat your barbecue chicken or go outside and stand on the patio and get soaked by the things that were coming down. And then there was Triceratops Encounter. Which again, based on another chunk of the original Jurassic Park novel, which Steven Spielberg opted not to use in his movie version of the Crichton book. This scene from the book, folks, is when it's basically right after the T-Rex has attacked. The electric fence has come down, it's come out, it's attacked. Alan Grant, Ellie, Lexi, and Tim seek shelter. They're in the underbrush and they suddenly hear something nearby and they start to freak out. And when they push back the bushes, it's a baby Triceratops and it's just sort of grazing. And they come out, they pet it, and then they notice that the 25-foot long mom is right nearby. And so, I want to say Lexi names the baby Triceratops Ralph, which is after a boy from school. And eventually Ralph wanders off with his mom, again, the full-size Triceratops, and they go off and graze. And now, mind you, in the movie, we do get Dr. Alan Grant and Ellie tending to a sick Triceratops. And in fact, to figure out, what's making this thing sick, quite memorably, they have Ellie dig into a giant pile of dinosaur dung. But as far as the folks at Landmark Entertainment were concerned, it's like, no. That's not magical. Being wowed by being close to a Triceratops, that's magical. And again, let's not do this as a big animatronic that you float by quickly when you're on a ride. Let's not do what Disney does with, for example, Countdown to Extinction, or for that matter, Primeval World when you're on the train. Wouldn't it be cool if you got to stand up close to an animatronic Triceratops for a couple of minutes? In fact, you're never more than 6 feet away from this thing that is breathing and blinking and peeing. And that was the thing. It's like, oh, we have to try to do this. How would we pull this off? And look, from watching Miles in close proximity to the animatronic Toothless, that when you do this right, this is magical. All right. Yeah. So why is it that the attraction on the Isle of Berk works, whereas, again, Triceratops Encounter at Islands Adventure didn't? And in the next installment of the series, we will discuss at depth what they did and then the numerous times they tried to fix this thing. I'm not gonna lie, it was a loss. It was a big swing and a miss. But we'll get into the specific details of that miss on the next Epic Universal podcast.
Well, geez, that was I didn't know we were going to go into books and Smithsonian's. That was a good tour. Thank you, Jim, for that.
I am the king of pointless stories.
Well, you know what? You also, unfortunately, have been lured into talking to both Herseys about dinosaurs this week because you just talked about Gertie on I Want That Too.
Oh, wow.
Who knows?
It's a theme. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have a spin-off show. Herseys and Jim talk about dinosaurs.
Okay.
Probably 3 listeners now.
Okay. Cool.
Well, Jim, thank you for that. I appreciate, and I'm looking forward to hearing, about this, the second half here. But I think it's about time we wrap things up here today. You can find me online at Eric Hersey if you want to do any social. I will tell you will find pictures of me at Epic, but you will not find pictures of Miles and I on Pterodon flyers, unfortunately. But follow ahead. Jim, where can people find you?
As always, you can find me on X and Instagram at Jim Hill Media and over on Facebook at Jim Hill Media News. I guess that's going to wrap it up for today, folks. Thanks for listening, and stick around to find out what's coming up this month on the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode, and if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. we also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Len Testa. For animation and movie news, please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcasts, like The Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our Epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly if you enjoy theme park history. We also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about podcast and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.